All right, so you've sent over some really interesting sources this time. Excerpts featuring Eric Schmidt talking AI futures.
That's right. And our job today, our deep dive, is really to pull out the core insights from that discussion.
Especially his predictions, right? What he sees coming down the pipeline in the next few years.
Exactly. We're looking at how these experts see things unfolding. And the big theme seems to be speed, like incredibly rapid progress.
Towards things like AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, AGI, AI is smart as humans, basically. And even potentially ASI, artificial superintelligence, which is well beyond us.
And the sources mention some pretty specific, almost startling predictions. AI writing all the code.
Right. That potential job market shifts, even geopolitical stuff heating up.
So these are the key bits we want to unpack for everyone listening. Give them that quick but deep understanding of where things might be heading based on these views.
Let's do it. Okay, first up, Schmidt says something is being underhyped. What's that about?
Yeah, he argues that the implications of AI, especially superintelligence, ASI, people aren't really grasping how big a deal it could be.
ASI meaning computers smarter than, like, all of humanity combined.
Exactly. And he mentions this San Francisco consensus, this sort of agreement among the big AI players there, suggesting this could happen maybe within 6 years, based purely on scaling things up.
6 years? Wow. That feels very close.
It does. And the sheer power needed sounds, well, enormous. Didn't he talk about gigawatts needing nuclear power, potentially?
He did, which really underscores the scale we're talking about here. It's massive infrastructure.
And his main worry seems to be that this tech is moving way faster than society can keep up.
Right. Our laws, our democratic processes,
Yeah.
they just aren't built for this kind of speed.
So for listeners, understanding this potential acceleration is key. It might reshape things much faster than we think.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about code. Schmidt's prediction that AI will eventually write all of it. That's a big one.
Fundamental change, yeah.
And it's not just him. Dario Amandas apparently thinks AI could hit 90% of code within, what, 3 to 6 months?
Months. And basically all code within a year.
Yeah. It sounds wild. Right now, AI helps, right? It handles higher level stuff.
We tell it what we want, broadly, and it generates the specifics.
Exactly. But if it takes over completely, well, the specific programming language you use might not even matter anymore.
Huh. So it's all about defining the goal, the outcome.
Pretty much. The AI just builds whatever's needed. And there's this interesting parallel they draw with math.
Oh, yeah.
The idea is that within maybe a year, AI could be performing at the level of, like, top maths PhD programs.
Seriously?
Well, it's kind of the same underlying tech, like word prediction, but for math proofs or code.
So for math, it predicts the next step in a proof, using that lean thing.
Yeah, basically it makes conjectures and builds proofs that a computer can check. For code, it just keeps writing and testing until the code works, until it passes the tests.
It just learns the patterns.
At a massive scale. Schmidt calls it a whole new world for software development. It really changes the game.
Okay, so AI writes the code, then what? This is where recursive self-improvement comes in, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the really mind-bending part. AI writing code.
Yeah.
To make itself better at writing code.
Creating better versions of itself.
Essentially, yes. And apparently, research groups are already seeing this happen. Like 10–20% of their new code is being generated by the AI itself.
So it's learning to program better, faster than humans can teach it.
Which suggests that progress towards AGI, the human-level intelligence, could really speed up exponentially, maybe.
And the timeline they're throwing around for AGI is?
3 to 5 years. AI is smart or smarter than the smartest humans in, math, physics, art, whatever.
Schmidt's analogy was like having the smartest human for every problem in our pocket.
Yeah. Universal genius on tap. It's hard to fully imagine.
And that links into AI agents, doesn't it? These autonomous systems.
It does. Agents are basically AI systems that can sense, remember, learn, and act on their own.
And Schmidt gave that example, buying a house in Virginia.
Right. You could have one agent finding the land, another checking all the regulations, another handling the money, another designing the house, hiring builders.
So instead of you juggling all those people and tasks,
the agents coordinate it all. Seamlessly. Supposedly.
Okay, I can see how that would work for house buying.
But his point is broader. That model could apply to almost any complex process. Business operations, government stuff, research.
You automate the coordination and execution. Huge efficiency gains, potentially.
Which, of course, leads straight to the big question.
Jobs. What happens to human jobs if AI can do all this complex work?
The million-dollar question, maybe trillion-dollar? Schmidt points to history. Automation changes jobs, but usually creates more overall.
But he's not totally convinced this time is the same. He said he was 50-50.
Yeah, that 50-50 stuck out to me too. It suggests real uncertainty, even from him, about whether AI is just different in scale and speed.
What do you think leans him towards the different this time side? Is it just the potential scope?
I think it's the scope and the potential for AGI. If you have something as smart as a human, or smarter, that can do cognitive work, that's different from automating physical tasks. Plus, there's that context he brings up.
Declining birth rates, particularly in Asia.
Right. They're automating incredibly fast, partly because they have shrinking workforces.
Yeah.
You could end up with a future where fewer humans are needed for production, maybe supporting a larger population that isn't directly employed in the same way.
A major societal restructuring.
Potentially.
Yeah.
It's a complex picture.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Geopolitics. The sources make it clear there's a serious AI race happening, especially with China.
Definitely. Schmidt talks about the DeepSeek moment in China.
Their equivalent of the ChatGPT moment here.
Yeah.
Sort of an awakening to AI's power.
Exactly. And apparently, DeepSeek's release actually rattled the U.S. stock market, which shows how seriously it's being taken.
And China's pouring resources into catching up and leading.
A massive national program, yeah. They're going all in.
But what about the U.S. chip controls? Aren't those supposed to be slowing them down?
Well, yes and no. The sources suggest China's adapting. There's probably some theft and evasion, finding ways around the controls.
Extended stuff, maybe?
But also, crucially, they're developing new algorithms. AI models that can run effectively on maybe less advanced hardware, often using open source software.
Ah, so they innovate around the hardware limitations.
Right. And that open source aspect is tricky.
How so?
Well, on one hand, if China makes a breakthrough using open source, the U.S. and others can potentially incorporate it very quickly. Everyone benefits from the advance.
The flip side?
The flip side is proliferation. Those powerful models become widely available maybe to actors we wouldn't want having them.
So the U.S. government is looking at ways to respond, like App Store bans for DeepSeek or restricting cloud access.
Seems like those options are on the table, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about trying to manage the risks while staying competitive.
And the stakes if one country gets a decisive lead. Schmidt mentioned some pretty scary scenarios.
He did. Attacks on data centers, this idea of a kind of AI-driven, mutually assured destruction.
Like, not nukes, but crippling the other side's AI infrastructure.
Yeah, his good lady and the bad guy analogy, where maybe they could target each other's power grids or essential systems via AI. It highlights the potential for really disruptive, non-kinetic conflict. Serious stuff.
Okay, let's pivot to something potentially more positive. AI in medicine, drug discovery, longevity. Schmidt seemed quite bullish here.
Very optimistic, yeah. He talked about automatic drug discovery and synthesis.
Speeding up finding cures. Personalized medicine.
That's the vision, dramatically accelerating the whole process. He mentioned funding a startup that's actually doing this.
How does it work?
They have an AI model trained on chemistry, basically, hooked up to a robotic lab. The AI generates hypotheses for new drugs, and the robots physically run the experiments to test them automatically.
Wow. So no human scientists mixing things in test tubes?
Or at least far less of it. These automated wet labs can run 24/7, just churning through possibilities. It could completely revolutionize biotech.
Leading to longer lifespans, that longevity escape velocity idea.
That's the hope. If AI can crack complex biology and rapidly develop treatments, maybe we could see significant gains. This came up when a PhD student asked him about it.
Right, the biomedical engineering student. Asked about ASI curing disease and personalizing medicine.
And Schmidt's take was basically yes. Superintelligence could understand biology, cells, disease mechanisms at a depth we just can't currently.
The AI might know why something works, even if we don't fully grasp it.
Precisely. He mentioned Dimas Hassabis at DeepMind having similar ambitions with isomorphic labs. Their goal is literally to solve all disease.
That sounds incredibly ambitious.
It is. But they point to things like AlphaFold, which massively sped up protein structure prediction as a proof of concept, science at digital speed.
The hope being that today's medicine looks medieval in comparison someday.
That's the dream, yeah. It's amazing to think about AI transforming not just tech and the economy, but our actual health and longevity so fundamentally.
Absolutely. So wrapping this up, the consistent thread from these sources is really the sheer speed of AI development.
Yeah, the potential for huge changes. Tech, jobs, geopolitics, health, happening much sooner than maybe we'd assumed.
So the main takeaway for everyone listening is, well, buckle up. Understand that these aren't distant sci-fi scenarios, according to these experts. They see this as near-future reality.
Right. Be aware. Start thinking about the implications. Which leads us to that final thought we wanted to leave people with.
Okay. Given everything we've talked about, AI potentially surpassing human smarts, rewriting code, running companies, maybe even fighting wars or curing disease.
Yeah, all that potential upheaval.
What single aspect do you, the listener, think will be the absolute hardest thing for us, for humanity, to adapt to, and why?
Is it the job losses, the ethical questions,
Mm-hmm.
the loss of control, something else entirely?
Lots to chew on there. It's a complex, fast-moving field, and this deep dive is really just scratching the surface.
Definitely just the beginning.
Thanks for joining us for this exploration.